Hi there. So we're in the first week of March, and this is our weekly bulletin in which we cover what happened during the week. And usually we cover one segment either about the macroeconomic news or about a specific industry. So we continue with our rhythm and bring you the highlights of this week. First, the basic numbers. The Nifty up by 0.69% to close at 22,493, and there were 30 advances and 20 declines at the end of the week. Fairly a balanced week, most of it sideways. The good thing was this week brought in good amount of buying from FIs, because if you look at last 3 or 4 weeks, it was mostly supported by DIs purchases, but this week was fairly balanced. FIs bought for 10,080 crores and DIs also bought for the same amount. DIs have been consistent buyers, but FIs, it's probably after 2 or 3 weeks that we are seeing that kind of buying. Now, the other part of it, which we also cover every week, is a quote from somebody who has been an investor and who has been in the field as an expert. And this time we bring in a quote from Sir John Templeton. He's been the founder for Templeton Mutual Funds, and what he says is the 4 most dangerous words in investing are "this time it's different." That's true. What it means is that there is herd mentality, and everybody, once they feel that there is optimism in the market, everybody wants to see the optimism. Once there is pessimism in the market, everybody sees the pessimism. And this person, Sir John Templeton, who founded Templeton Mutual Funds, has been a contrarian investor. So he would usually buy when the markets are bleeding, and that's how he made most of his fortune. And for his clients, he made most of his fortune during the 1931 depression. So he belongs to the era of starting from 1930s to probably like 2008. 2008 is when he passed out. So that's what he says, and I would believe that currently there is a lot of optimism in the market. So we are all feeling that the party will continue. So hopefully the party continues. But yes, we need to be always cautious. Definitely a lot of companies are looking overvalued, and definitely Nifty, going by the traditional valuations, is definitely trading in a slightly higher zone. Then if you look at the industries, this time the way it worked out was again very similar to how we saw it in the last week. Metals up by 1.98%, pharma also continuing from the last week, and media being down by 1.56%. So it has been taking a significant beating for the last few weeks. It continues, though this time at a much smaller range, primarily because the Sony merger be falling off. Now, what we're going to cover, as I mentioned earlier, is that we're going to look into the EV segment. We just scratched the surface at this point in time, so we look at some of the auto companies and the EV companies, which we believe are the front runners in the EV space. So we look at the historical data on how this market is expected to grow, and then we look at the key players and give our recommendation on where we are laying our bet. So just trying to get into the electric vehicle segment. If you really look at it from the numbers perspective, what we're seeing is that obviously from between 2019 to 22, that's the data that's available publicly. There's been significant increase, and if you really look at by the percentage terms that we're growing at, 2,200% is what has been the growth. The key thing is that there is a lot of pressure at the government level to drive towards zero emission, and that's why there are 2030 targets, and everything is working around that, driving subsidies and driving more companies to create those kind of products and helping people adopt those products. Now, what we also saw during the same period is that when there were around 19,100 electric vehicles sold in FY 2020, there are like 4,42,000 plus sold by during the December 2022 period. So there's significant jump, and currently the EV penetration is a very small percentage, 1.3%, but especially in the tier 1 cities now it's growing, and it's expected to grow at a significant pace. We can clearly see it on the roads, and the commercial vehicle is at 1% of the total sales. So that's a very small percentage. So there is a lot of room for growth, especially when it is being driven by the government, and when the government is being driven by the climate compulsions being developed at an international level. So there is significant targets for every government, including Indian government, to achieve a certain level of emission by 2030, which is driving this growth. Now, if we really look at it from a numbers perspective, what we believe is, and what the research indicates, is that currently it's expected to grow at CAGR of 47.09% between 22 and 27. So there is significant growth that is expected over there. And the government targets a 30% EV penetration in private cars and 70% penetration in commercial vehicles. So that's a big number. If we're really looking at it, what we are really looking at is this number. That if this is the number that it is driving towards, then obviously some of the players are going to get significant advantage from it. So which are the companies that we studied in the process? Obviously, if we're talking about commercial vehicle, and that is where the focus is, some of these companies, Tata Motors, Mahindra & Mahindra, Ashok Leyland, and Olectra Greentech, they operate in this space. They provide buses and trucks. And what we're seeing over here from a pure numbers perspective, what we find is significant value in Olectra Greentech, because the kind of CAGR, the profit growth that it has demonstrated is 49%. Whereas Tata Motors, Mahindra, Ashok Leyland, they all have presence, but they also have presence in the conventional fossil fuels segment. But Olectra is a growing company, and if you look at debt to equity, it is again showing a lot of promise over here. It's at 0.15, whereas the other companies are still, if you look at debt to equity ratios, they don't sound that interesting at this point in time. So the primary pick for us would be Olectra Greentech based on the numbers, including the profit growth as well as the debt to equity, and what we know is that it has a very strong order book. 2,400 electric buses which have been ordered, which are worth 4,200 CR from Mumbai Corporation, and this order book is growing. So it's expected to do well, and it's growing at nearly 50% CAGR as the numbers indicated. And with the government target of 70% vehicle penetration, Olectra is expected to be the leading beneficiary in the segment. So we will be starting to build positions in this. This point in time, we are going to also investigate this further. And as we investigate this further, we'll share our findings. But if we were to look at the overall segment at this time, this is one of the leading companies that we would recommend at this point in time and build our positions. So with that, we come to an end for this week. We expect the markets to continue to consolidate in the range in which it has been operating, with somewhere in between 22,000 and 22,500. Overall macroeconomic situation looks the same. There's nothing major which is disturbing the apple cart. So hopefully a good week again for Nifty. I'll see you in the next one. So do like, subscribe and share to our content. We try to bring in an honest review on what we are seeing in the market and where we are investing. I'll see you in the next one. We'll again bring back the Nifty news and the segment in which we are taking up positions. Bye for now.